Hello and welcome back to the fourth lesson today from the Stream School. I'm joined again by Nish.
Hey.
And I've got a slight change in this lesson here, even though this is obviously the live Stream School. One of the key things that we were looking to do with the live was open it up to questions. Obviously, we've had a lot of views and a lot of people kicking in, but we haven't had a lot of questions yet. I'm sure that will change in time. So what I wanted to do just momentarily was to do one video lesson from my really, really good friend Sheila Bala, who has recorded something just for us. Now, I'm going to be playing this because I've been in education technology for a long time and have a lot of different videos that we can use and play, but not during the live time. This is going to be one of the experiments that we're going to do this week and next week, and that's it. Because what we can do after the live stream ends for the afternoons when schools are back on is we've got a few pieces where we can amalgamate a load of maybe thousands of different videos and set 3 or 4 different sessions, same as this is, in a tiered workflow with some activities, but the morning can be live. And then for those that want, we've actually got a load of pre-recorded material again. All of it will be free access. There's no sale of anything here. So I'm just going to be trying this first video and just see how it comes across in the cast. If it's staggered and broadcast live, as opposed to you being able to come in and out of it. So without too much further ado, I'm going to swap now and go to the application. And hopefully that is going to be something that you guys will be able to watch. And then, yeah, it's going to be useful. Obviously, I'm not going to interact with this character because it's pre to you. And yeah, this is really for people who are looking at the higher level in different items.
Okay, good morning, everyone. I hope you're ready for our first maths lesson. So let me explain a little bit about what we're going to be doing here. I'm going to take different topics that I've noticed kids find particularly hard in answering, or certain topics that people would like to learn a quick way of doing, and use them to teach you throughout the next few weeks. Okay, so let's get started. So I'm going to share a PowerPoint that I've created with you that we'll go through. So first of all, my name is Ms. Bala. Hello, everyone. And today we're going to deal with 4 main topics that come under number. It's all about prime factors. So the first one that we're going to be doing is learning how to write a number as a product of prime factors. The second one that we'll be doing is learning how to find the highest common factor. You might have heard of it as HCF, yeah? Then the lowest common multiple. And then finally, I'll show you an exam style question so you can see how you can apply the knowledge that you've done here under a practical sense, okay? So let's have a look. The first thing we're going to do is writing a number as a product of prime factors. There are 2 different methods. In fact, there are many different ways, but these are the 2 most popular ones. I prefer the second method. However, I'll show you both, and at the end of the day, you've got to pick the one that is easiest for you. So the first one I think is the most well-known one, which is the factor tree method. So the first thing you do is you think of 2 numbers that can multiply into 180. They don't necessarily have to be prime factors. They just need to be factors of the number. So, for example, I always pick the most obvious. So 18, and I think another one would be 10, right? 18 times 10 gives you 180. Then you think of 2 factors that go into 18, which would be 3 times 6, yes? So 3 there and a 6 there. And notice how I'm not picking prime factors at all. I'm just breaking them down. And then here, the 10, I would think of the number 2 and the number 5, right? 2 times 5 gives you 10. Now, if you look at these carefully, can you notice that a couple of them are already prime factors? So I'm going to square them off so I know I don't need to do anything. Remember, prime factor is a number that has 2 factors, the number 1 and itself. So 5 is a prime factor, 2 is a prime factor, and 3 is a prime factor. Number 6 is not, which means we've got to keep going. So I'm going to expand my number 6 into 2 more. And those numbers would be, again, the number 3, and the number 2. And now I'm done. So I'm going to put a box around both those numbers as well, so I know what I'm dealing with. Now, these numbers are all the prime factors of 180. So if we're going to write our final answer, you write 180 is equal to, and I normally do this in ascending order. So there's 2 2s, so that's 2 times 2, which is the same as 2 squared. So you can write it like this. It's better to write it as an indice. Multiply, the next one is 3, and there's 3 3s. So 3 squared again. And then multiplied by 5. Now, if you check this on the calculator, 2 squared times 3 squared times 5, you'll get 180, so you know you're fine. Okay, the second method is the method here on the right, okay? And this method is called the division method. I personally find this easier because it also helps with the highest common factor and the lowest common multiple later on, but whatever you prefer, okay? So the division method, here you always think of a low number that divides into the number, and you've got to make sure it's a prime number. Normally, if it's even, I always start with the number 2. So you divide, it's like an upside down division sign, right? Divide by 2 and you get 90. Here, I'm going to divide again by 2 and I get the number 45. Now here, automatically in my head, I think of the number 5, right? And 5 is a prime number, so I'm going to divide by 5. And 5 times 9 is 45. I hope that's okay for everyone. And then I'm going to divide here. Now be careful, 9 is not a prime factor, so don't stop there. I've got to now divide by 3, which gives you 3 at the end. And then here, I'm going to divide by 3 again. Now when I get to this point, I get the number 1 here. Now this is important. When you get the number 1, you need to learn to just stop. You've finished the question off. You've done all the hard part. Okay, and now we're going to just answer the question. So here, looking at this, can you see these numbers are the same as the numbers here? So you've come out with the prime factors without really working very hard at all. So here, oops, I'm going to change that back into writing. So now I can say that 180, exactly in the same way as the page before, the question before, there's 2 2's here. So I'm going to say 2 squared times 5. Now can you see here, ideally this should be in ascending order, but I didn't notice that 3 went into 45 instantly. I just thought of the number 5, which is prime. So it doesn't really matter the order in which you divide by. But here there's 2 3's, so that's 3 squared again. And then the last thing is that 5 on its own there, so I do multiply by 5. And there you go. And again, you can check this on the calculator by typing this in, you should get the number 180. Okay, so what I'd like you to have a go at is have a go at this question here. I'm just going to clear all the writing I've done. I'm going to give you a couple of minutes. You can do it in whichever method you want. If you prefer doing a factor tree method, have a go. Or if you prefer doing a division method, have a go. And I'm going to show you the answer in a couple of minutes, okay? So go for it.
This is where I'd normally say something.
Okay, make sure you divide by prime factors if you're doing a division method. And make sure you break it all down into the possible prime factors if you're doing the factor tree method. Yeah? Okay, so I'm going to do the division method because I mentioned that I prefer that. But if you've done the factor tree method, our answers should still be the same. So here, I can see it's an even number, right? So I'm going to divide by 2. When I divide by 2, I get 1 remainder 1. 2 into 15 is 7, to get to 14, remainder 1 again. And then 2 into 10 is 5. Okay, so 175. Now I can see the 5 in the end, so I'm going to divide by 5. I'm not going to stress myself out. 5 into 17 is 3, remainder 2. And then 5 into 25, there's another 5 there. Okay, there's another 5 in the end, so I'm going to divide by 5 again, which gives me 7. And then I'm going to divide by 7 because that's the prime factor. So I'm dividing by itself and I get the number 1. And remember, like I said before, when you get to number 1, you stop. So we've done. So now I'm going to work out my answer. So here, 350, and I hope if you've done the factor tree one, you've got the same answer, is the same as 2 times 5. There's 2 5's. That's 5 squared. And then multiplied by 7. Okay? And that's the answer for it. This bit's the answer here. Okay, and that's the product, which means the multiplication of prime factors. Okay, we're going to move on. At the end of the lesson, you'll get a chance to practice some of these questions, okay? But for now, I'm going to move on to the next type. The next type here we're going to be doing finding the highest common factor of 2 numbers. So we're going to find the highest common factor of 132 and 108. Now, the prime factor tree method, again, is one that a lot of people prefer to use. So I'm going to do this one first, and then I'm going to show you the division method as well. And you, again, pick whichever one's easiest for you. So here, again, with 132, you think of 2 numbers that multiply together to give you 132. Don't try and think of prime factors because it's just unnecessary stress. Think of the most obvious numbers you can think of. So I think of 12 times by 11, okay? Because those are the most obvious ones. And then here I realize that 11 is a prime factor, which is great. So I'm going to leave it alone, but I'm going to break up the 12 into its 2 numbers. So 3 times 4. And I notice again the 3 is prime, so I'm going to leave that alone. And then I'm going to break down the 4 into 2 more prime factors, which is 2 to 2, and again the number 2 here. Okay, so now I've got my prime factors. I'm going to put box around all of them so I don't forget. There's 1 there, there's 1 there, there's 1 there, and there's 1 there. Now I'm going to leave that the way it is for now. Okay, we'll come back to it in a second. Let's do the other side, because the highest common factor is the biggest number that can divide into 132 and 108. So we're going to do the same thing here. Think of 2 numbers that multiply to give you 108. Okay, so you're going to think about that. And the two numbers there would be 9 times by 12. Okay, so those are the first two numbers that multiply to give you that. Then I'm going to extend those two numbers now. Times that, and that times that, and think about what two numbers go into 9 and 12. So into 9 is number 3, and again, the number 3. And for 12, it's number 3 and the number 4. And most of those are prime except for the number 4. So I'm going to break down the 4 again into its two prime factors, which are the number 2 and the number 2. So now I'm done with this side as well. So I can draw boxes around those, which is great. I'll do those in different color too. So it's 3, 3, 3, 2, and 2. Now, when you're finishing this bit off, it's slightly complicated here, but what we do is that we use a Venn diagram to compare the answers, okay? So I'm going to draw 2 Venn diagrams here, like 2 circles. That second one's a bit dodgy, so I'm going to bring it up. Second. So it's just next to it. Okay, so like that. And then we fill in the numbers that you noticed are in both. So first of all, can you see the common numbers in both of these? There's a 3 here. I'm going to do I'll do it in slight dark so you can see it. So there's a 3 here that I'm going to get rid of, and there's a 3 here, which means that number gets written right into the middle because it's in both numbers. Okay. Then I can see there's a number 2 in both, so I'm going to get rid of that 2. So that 2, and I'm going to get rid of that 2 because I feel like doing that one. And again, I'll write that in the middle. And then you look at what else you can notice in both. There's another 2 in both of them. You can see there's a 2 there and another 2 there. So I'm going to get rid of both those, and I'm going to write that in the middle there. If you look at the rest, there's no other numbers that should go in the middle. However, there's an 11 here by itself, so I'm going to write that out there. And here, there's a 3 and then another 3. So I'm going to write a 3 here and a 3 here. Remember, this number, this side represents number 132, and this side represents number 108. So now, all you need to remember is that the highest common factor are the numbers that are right in the middle. So these 3 numbers here are your highest common factors multiplied together. So to get them highest common factor, you just multiply those 3 together. So our HCF, in this particular case, is just going to be 3 times 2 times 2. Just 3 times 4, so the answer is 12, which divides into both of those numbers. Okay, so that's the first way you can do it. Obviously, these are nice numbers, so you can probably have guessed that 12 was the highest common factor of both, but just in case, it's better to do it like this if you can't see it immediately. Okay, right. The next page, I'm going to show you how to do it, but using the second method, which is division method. And I personally find this easier. So let's have a look at this one. Okay, so here, what you do first of all is that you think of a number that divides into both numbers. It doesn't have to be the lowest number possible. It can be big, it can be small, it can be whatever you want, as long as it's a number that really does divide into both numbers. So here, I can think of the number 12 that divides into both instantly. Let's say I didn't spot that, okay? Let's say I realize the number 2 can divide into both. So I'm going to write the number 2 there, okay? Let's say I didn't spot that, and that's okay. Divide 132 by 2, you get 6, remainder 1, and then you get another 6 there, okay? And then 108 divided by 2 is 54. Now here I'm going to keep going. In these two, I notice that again, they're even. So I'm going to divide by 2 again. Again, you don't have to. You could have just divided by 12 instantly. Divide by 2 here, and here I get 33. And here I get half of 54, which is 2, remainder 1, and then 7 there, so 27. And now I notice that both of these numbers can be divided by 3. So I'm going to divide both those numbers by 3. This point here, divide by 3, and you get the number 11 down here. And then here you get the number 9. Now when you get to this point, can you see that the 11 and the 9, there's nothing that can divide into both. So here is where you stop. Here, you know, you've done everything. There's no more division as possible, so you stop. And then the last thing you do is that you realize that the highest common factor is these 3 numbers multiplied together. So you look at those 3 numbers, just like we did in the question before, and you multiply together. So it's just 2 times 2 times 3, which again, like we said earlier, is the number 12, which is the same answer we got from using prime factorization. Now, the only reason why I say the division method is easier is because it's just one thing and you're done. That's all you have to do. And in fact, from the same method, you can get the lowest common multiple, which is what we're going to be talking about next. Okay, so I'm going to give you a couple of minutes, maybe a little too short a time, but have a go. I want you to have a go at the next page. Have a go at finding the highest common factor of 450 and 400. I'm going to do it my way in a couple of minutes, but I'm going to let you have a go and see what you get. Okay, go for it.
This is where we do something again, Nish. It's just interesting thinking about how it is, because it's obviously the interaction, obviously the questions won't work. Me and you won't be able to actually answer any questions. But in terms of the clarity, again, you see.
So remember to divide both numbers by the same number if you're doing the division method. It doesn't have to be a lowest common multiple, it could be any number. It doesn't have to be a prime factor, any number. Or if you're doing the factor tree, make sure you break it up to prime factors, and then combine it in the Venn diagram.
Yes, and obviously the video doesn't know you're going to interrupt it, but you see another style again, like using this split PowerPoint board the whole way through with the caption in the top right. Are you there, Nish?
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Okay. I understand some of you might still be doing the question, but I'm going to show you my answer quietly as you're doing it. Okay. So if you're not ready, don't look up at the board. Just continue your question. But if you are ready, have a look at what I'm doing. Obviously, I'm going to do it the division method because I've told you that's my favorite method. So I'm going to divide both those numbers. Now, the last question, I divided both numbers by the number 2 or the lowest prime factor, right? But here, I noticed that both those numbers obviously divide by 10 because they're ending in 0. So I'm going to divide both of them by 10. Here I get 45, and here I get 40, which makes a massive jump. And then if you're looking at those two numbers now, can you see that both those numbers divide by 5 because they end in a 5 and a 0? So I'm going to put the number 5 here, which means I get the number 9 down here, and the number 8. And if you notice, 8 and 9, there is nothing that divides into both those numbers. So you can stop there. So our highest common factor is just those two numbers multiplied together. Yeah? And those two numbers multiplied together gives you the answer 50. So that's the answer. That is the highest common factor of 450 and 400. And if you're looking at, obviously I've picked nice easy numbers so you can check your answer, 450 and 400. You can see that 50 goes into both of them, right? If you can. And if you can't, well, this method lets you work that out without having to stress too much. Okay, hope you got that right. I've got 5 minutes left, so I'm going to show you the next thing. We may not finish the whole lesson, that's okay. We'll do it next time, but let's have a look at the very last thing. So the very last thing is connected very much to the highest common factor. It's the lowest common multiple of 60 and 140. I'm going to do this the factor tree method way first. Hopefully you'll be okay with that. So 60, I'm going to do this quite quickly because I think you should be okay now that we've done a couple of these. So 6 times 10 gives you 60, right? Again, I'm not thinking of prime factors, I'm just thinking of any factor that pops into my head. I'm going to divide those two numbers up. So 6 is the same as 2 times 3, 2 and the 3 there, and the 10 is 2 times 5. Okay, those are all prime factors, so I'm going to draw a quick box around all of those in different colours, they stepped out. So that's 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay, now we're going to go to the other side. So on the other side, I'm going to do the same thing with 140. So 140, I can see the 0 on the end. So I know that's 14 times by 10, right? Now I'm going to do the breakdown of those two. So 14, think of two factors that go into there, and the 10 as well. So for 14, I know it's 2 times 7, and look, they're both prime factors, which is great. It means I don't have too much work to do, and 2 and 5 there. Okay, and again, they're all prime factors, so I'm going to draw little boxes around all of this, okay? So keep it. So again, I'm going to look for the numbers that are the same in both. So I notice there's a 2 and a 2 in both. I'm going to delete that, so bye-bye, and bye-bye. And I'm going to put a 2 in the middle. 2. Then I notice that there's another number that's the same. There's another 2 in both. So I'm going to get rid of that 2 and get rid of that 2. And put that into the middle. Okay, so this is exactly the same method as we were doing for the highest common factor, right? So this is why I'm trying to say that it actually helps a lot knowing both. Both have 5s in them, so I'm going to put a 5 in the middle as well. And if you remember, with all the other numbers, because there's a 7 and 3 here, they don't go into either one, so you're going to write them separately into the individual boxes. Remember, this one was for the number 60, and this one was for the number 140. So now, this is really important. Step 1, you do the same as what you did for the highest common factor. So you multiply all those numbers together. So 2 times 5 times 2 is 20. And I get the number 20 there. So remember that number, 20. Okay, and then you notice that you have a 3 left over and a 7 left over, which is 21. So then you do 20 times the 2 numbers left over. So your lowest common multiple is just 20, which is the highest common factor, multiplied by the leftover numbers in the individual circle parts, not in the intersection. So not in the middle bit. So 20 times by 21. Okay, and if you're not sure, you can use a calculator. I want to do it so you see what I mean. 20 times by 21 is 420. Okay, this can come up, most likely this will come up in the non-calculator part of the exam, but if it comes up in the calculator, that makes sense too. Okay, so the answer is 420 there. So that is using the lowest common multiple. Okay, and that's using the factor tree. So now I'm going to show you how to do it using the division method. Okay, so with the division method, this is what I love about division method. It's awesome for this kind of stuff. Here I'm going to divide both the numbers by a number that I know goes into both, which is 10. So I get 6 here, nice and quick, and I get the number 14 here, nice and quick. Then I divide again. When I'm dividing again, I start thinking what number goes to both of those. They're both even, so I'm going to put the number 2 here, and I get the number 3 down here, and the number 7. You should notice those numbers are the same as what were in the Venn diagram, so you should notice that. And here you're done, because you can't divide by anything else. So you stop there. And again, this is what's really clever. With the lowest common multiple, remember, the lowest common multiple is like an L, right? So what it reminds me is that I can multiply going down and going across. So what that means is here you multiply together all the numbers that make a shape of L in your answer. So you're going to multiply these 4 numbers together. So the answer is 10 times 2 times 3 times 7. So again, you get the answer 20 times 21, which gives you 420, just like before. Again, just reinforcing, you can use any of the methods that I've shown you so far to answer the questions about highest common factor, lowest common multiple, or finding the prime factors. After this link, after this video, I'll send you a couple of questions to have a go at this. And in our next lesson, we'll have a go at some exam-style questions so you can see how to apply what we've done so far in your actual exams. Okay, I hope the lesson's been useful, and I'll see you next time. Bye.
So that's that, and then we would just come back to ourselves, and so now we'll come to the wonderful word where we are again. Yeah, that was different, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was good.
But it's always obviously Sheila's a great teacher, but it's just in the delivery. Like you're just thinking live versus streamed versus played versus access yourself. Yeah. That's much more like a TV show, as it were, rather than being anything else. Right, I've unpinned you as well, just to kind of show the Google PowerPoint. No, it's not worked again. Absolutely not worked again. There we go. Hey, I've got your screen and my screen at the same time. All right, great. So that's going to be the end of our shenanigans this week. And sorry that I haven't forwarded the clips to you for the task for the last video. I will rectify, and I'll chastise myself over the weekend for my crimes. But yeah, thank you so much for all your help this week, Nish. I think it's been good. We've had over 2,000 views now for the week, and we just said even if we get something to one person, that would be good. We've had dozens of messages of thanks, so I think we're doing the right thing, and we're polishing it a bit now. As you can see, we've got captions coming up. I hope that's broadcasting to you guys at home where you can see the captions. I'll stop so it doesn't look like a massive paragraph, Nish.
I know, should I take over a little bit? There you go, carry on now.
But again, it's just using the technology, finding out different things with the technology, seeing what works with the technology, and then seeing if we can go from there and move on. But thank you so much, Anise. Thank you so much to everyone as well who's joined us at different points and different days. And really look forward to picking up with you guys on Monday. And like I said, we're going to be back here every single day, God willing, until the schools are back up and running. And I'm trying to coax some primary colleagues into doing a primary one, Nish.
Which would be so good.
Yeah, that's what I really need. Like maybe that's why I'm doing this. I'm doing a secondary one, so someone out there takes pity and there's a primary one, and I can get 2 hours of my kids shown and distracted and entertained and educated every single day. But yeah, it's really nice. And thank you to everyone who's also volunteering. And I really look forward to speaking to some of you on the weekend and then picking up from there.
Okay.
Have a great weekend, my dear.
You too.